This is Dr. Jerome Corsi, and today is Friday, June 9th, 2023. And thank you for joining us here at thetruthcentral.com. The first story today is pretty shocking to me. This is Donald Trump in this kind of banana republic indictment. He was indicted for election. He's indicted because of the taking his classified documents back to Mar-a-Lago, and they're probably going to have some kind of a elaborate scheme here on him. Trump gave a statement on this on Truth Social, which is his website, truthsocial.com. Ours is The Truth Central. Trump basically said, I'm an innocent man. Biden administration is totally corrupt. This is election interference. They've been after him for 7 years. They've concocted a story, and Trump is absolutely 100% right. This is a moment of tremendous disgrace for our country, that our Department of Justice has gone so low as to indict a former president on nonsense. And it's clearly, Trump has gone through Russian collusion for that was raised in 2016, that he interfered with the election by getting Assange's emails and all this. It was all nonsense. I was in the middle of it. I know it was nonsense. I know that the Mueller prosecutors were vicious dogs who didn't care at all about truth. I told them that I went 40 hours. They called me before the grand jury. They wanted me to. I proffered. I gave them all my computers, everything. I had nothing to hide. They thought I had a contact with Julian Assange. I did not. When I couldn't fabricate a tie, which I wouldn't do, you couldn't get away with it anyway. They'd go look for your tie that you'd made up, and then they would indict you for that. The point is, I had no tie to Julian Assange. The entire case was complete nonsense. And ultimately, they offered me a plea deal. They were going to say, well, we'll indict you anyway. We'll put you before a grand jury, even if you're innocent, and put you before a jury in Washington, D.C. They'll put you in prison for the rest of your life. I finally said, put me in prison the rest of my life. I'm not going to stand before a judge and God, put my right hand up and swear to a lie to keep myself out of jail. And they never indicted me. I told them Assange Russia did not steal the Democratic emails. So, Dr. Corsi, we're not interested in your theories. Well, now Durham says I was right. I was right about the whole thing. That's my book on the coup d'etat. This has been a coup d'etat. And Mike Lee has pointed out correctly that Biden ordered the prosecution of his political opponent. We're now criminalizing politics in the United States. If your name is Donald Trump, Democrats ought to be ashamed of themselves. They ought to be run out of the country. They're communists. These are the worst menace to the United States of America, the Democratic Party, that we've ever had. And it is corrupt. It's vicious. They won't tolerate the truth. You have to lie. They cover everything up. This is I'm so outraged at this. I think the nation will be too. I think Donald Trump was going to win the election hands down. They'll come. We've got to have poll watchers. We got to go into these different Democratic states and not let them steal another election. I'm tired of not being able to say they stole the election. They did. It was obvious they stole the election. Obvious that they won't let you investigate it. So in a post on Twitter, Mike Lee reminded Americans that Biden cleared. He waived the executive privilege for Trump, not for himself. SOB, doing that. Completely duplicitous criminal Biden. So White House counsel Jonathan Su relayed Biden's order to the National Archives that led to Garland's unprecedented, unnecessary, unlawful raid on Trump. For presidential records Trump was allowed to have. That's what Mike Lee says. He's right. I think this is the lowest day in the history of the United States. I've never imagined that our country would reduce to Soviet Russia or Mao's China or North Korea or Venezuela, but we have. Evil is predominant in the United States, and this woke agenda has got to go. They're lying about climate change. They're lying about everything. Trump is a president of the United States duly elected. He does not deserve another witch hunt. He went through 2 impeachments, which he beat both lies. One on Ukraine, lies. Democratic Party wanting to put Ukraine into NATO. Hillary Clinton accepting bribes from Pinchuk, this Ukrainian oligarch, in 2013. That was the start of what we're experiencing today in the war with Russia. The Democrats started it. Well, let's contrast this with the other story here that has me equally outraged, and that is finally, after House Committee on Oversight and Accountability, James Comer, is a Republican from Kentucky, Christopher Wray, another absolutely political animal that has no business in government. If he wants to be a communist operative, let him join the Communist Party and go to China. All right, so Comer wanted this unclassified document, this form that the FBI generated, which is an accusation, contains allegations that Biden, as vice president, took a bribe from a foreign national, namely Ukraine, to change policy. And evidently there were $5 million payout to Biden involved in this. This is real criminal activity. And what does our Christopher Wray do? He doesn't want to hand over the documents. So Comer said, well, then we'll bring you before the House. We'll hold you in contempt. Well, Wray said, okay, I'll hand over the documents, but just to you and to Grassley and a couple of others. Comer said no. So finally, Wray and Garland, these 2 genius communist operatives that are running our justice system, decided that they could let the whole committee see it. But do you think they'll do anything? You think they'll lift a finger to indict a Democrat? No, they won't. Chris, what do you think of all this?
Again, equal protection and equal treatment under the law is not being carried out, and this is purposeful. It used to be that there was a nuance to it, and there was a way to hide it, and there was a little bit of, hey, are they really doing this or not? But now they're not even hiding it. It's blatant, and they believe they can get away with it.
They are getting away with it. Now Trump is going to be called. He's going to have to surrender to a federal officers in Miami this week or next week. He's going to have to be indicted for federal crime. He's going to have to hire all kinds of lawyers again and go through what we've gone through before. He'll probably get a jury of Democrats who hate him, and they'll probably convict him.
Here's the funny thing, though. Every time they do this, Trump gets more popular because more people see through what's happening, and they see the real corruption within Washington.
Yeah, it's like the electric vehicles. After a number of them catch fire, and the major electric vehicle companies are saying, don't park your electric vehicle in the garage because it might burn down the house.
It's true. And it's happening. And then they won't work that well, everything else. People get sick and tired of things. Once in a while, you can fool them. Like, what was the old phrase that my grandfather used to say, my grandmother as well? Fool me once. Yeah.
Yeah. You can fool some of the people all the time. Yeah. You can some of the people some of the time. You can't fool all of the people all of the time.
Right. There we go.
And that was, I mean, it's the problem is people are seeing through this. I mean, the things we're going to report today are absolute insanity that we reported all week long going on. The windmills and the junk that's going to be generated by solar panels, which is going to create an environmental crisis. We're going to have millions and millions of pounds of these worthless solar panels that are obsolete and have to be carefully destroyed in order to recover the rare minerals. The batteries require rare minerals. We're mining. China is dominating the market, and we're mining all through the third world. I mean, this is absolute. We can't have cows because cows fart methane. Well, human beings, we exhale carbon dioxide. Are we going to get rid of human beings too?
I want to float one to you. I want to float a question about these articles to you. President Trump is being indicted for holding declassified documents at Mar-a-Lago. Remember, he had the power to declassify those documents,
Right.
whereas the sitting president had classified documents in his residence and private office or
And
private
nothing's
office.
being done.
Right. Will
Nothing's
this
being done.
is this going to set a precedent now where somebody else, when this side goes to power, they can come after Biden? There is no foresight to this as well.
Well, they don't think they'll ever lose power
Right. They
because
always
communists, once they are in, you can't get rid of them.
Yeah.
You know, Venezuela, there was a major effort to get rid of, the communists in Venezuela. It didn't work. Communists are still in China. You know, I mean, Russia is supposedly not communist, but Russia, I can guarantee you the communist ideology pervades in many of these countries still.
Sounds like they're taking electioneering lessons from Idi Amin.
Well, it's a mind virus. It's like malware of the mind, communism, this whole equality. It's a program that you run it and your mind doesn't work anymore. It doesn't function. And it's designed to destroy.
We should bring communism back to the subject of ridicule. That's the rightful place for communism, to be a subject of ridicule around the
Unfortunately,
world.
they kill millions of people.
Right. Right.
And they destroy societies. And it's suicidal. The next story, the High Court in Great Britain denied Assange even the right to appeal the extradition. They made him wait a year, and they gave a 3-page decision, and they rejected all 8 grounds of his appeal. Assange, of course, is in prison because he dared to publish Hillary Clinton's emails that were stolen not by Russia, but from within. And I can prove that, and I've written about it. My book, if you read my book, Coup d'etat, you can find out that I'm confident it was Seth Rich. I'll pull the book off the shelf.
Once again, for those of you who are watching, these are real books back there, not a fake background like my map here.
These are real books, and I really did write them. There it is, Coup d'etat. Read it. I mean, this shows the whole thing. I wrote this book years ago. I mean, this was a book, I was in the middle of this, and firsthand, I published this book in 2020. So 3 years ago. We're just finding what I wrote 3 years ago is affirmed. Assange has been held in solitary confinement now for I don't know how many years he finally was in the Honduran embassy for a long time, and he got out of the Honduran embassy, and they just about destroyed him. His health is gone. His mind is probably gone. This is a guy who was in prison for telling the truth. So, well, he stole the emails. Yeah, well, he didn't steal the emails. Under the same Supreme Court decision that protected the Washington Post and the New York Times from publishing they could publish the Pentagon Papers because they didn't steal them. They published them. Assange didn't steal these documents. He published them. And he's never been convicted in any court of having violated anything to do with the First Amendment. Assange, anybody who dares to tell the truth, this deep state evil apparatus is going to come after. I've faced it myself in my own life. I've suffered it and narrowly escaped going to. If the Department of Justice had its way, I'd be in prison today, and no one would give a damn because the country has. If we do not insist upon returning to the Bill of Rights, if you want to accept, even Muslims in the United States are protesting this gay agenda, this LGBT trans agenda. And since when did the transgenders, which historically have been with us forever, but a very, very small percentage of the population, why do we have to teach our children here to be transgenders and go through sex change operations before they even know what sex is about. Well, this next article I'm covering, Instagram, this is in the Wall Street Journal. This is Zuckerberg, one of my least favorite. I think he looks satanic. I think he files his teeth. The guy is weird. So Instagram, which is owned by Meta, which used to be Facebook, it helps connect and promote it. I'm reading right from the Wall Street Journal. A vast network of accounts openly devoted to the commission and purchase of underage sex content. According to investigations by the Wall Street Journal and researchers at Stanford University and the University of Massachusetts at Amherst. So what they're doing basically is they're taking the sexualized, pedophilia-oriented language and connections, explicit hashtags like hashtag pedohore, PEDOWHORE, and preteen sex, hashtag preteen sex. They're connecting into the accounts. They advertise child sex material for sale. The accounts sometimes claim to be run by children with incorporating worlds like Little Slut for You. These people belong in hell. And Meta and Zuckerberg are going to find themselves there too for promoting this crap. But if they can do it in the schools, they go down to the schools and teach the children to be transgenders. Well, who's going to stop them from openly advertising for pedophilia on a Zuckerberg-owned and run site? And this is a very thorough, they did a quantitative Stanford Institute Observatory, a division of the university's Cyber Policy Center, focused on social media abuse. They produced an independent quantitative analysis of the Instagram features that help users connect and find content for pedophilia. And just read the article. It's disgusting. There are hashtags associated with underage sex. So Stanford Internet Observatory, they use these hashtags associated with underage sex to find 405 sellers of what researchers labeled self-generated child sex materials, or accounts run by children themselves, some saying they were young as 12. Most likely those are proxy accounts. They're probably created by somebody who's much older than that. Meta, so the company wants to take down 490,000 accounts. Why don't we just take down Meta? These are getting to be, I find it appalling to have to report on this stuff. Chris, what do you think?
It's absolutely disgusting. And with all the police that Instagram, Facebook have, Meta, if you will, have to shut down or shadow ban anybody who talks about COVID-19 vaccines or says the wrong word or maybe misgenders somebody. They couldn't figure this one out fast enough. They couldn't find this. I believe there's a disconnect there, strongly.
Of course, there's a disconnect. And if you think that the Instagram and Facebook people or Meta people didn't know what was going on, you're wrong. They knew what was going on. They didn't stop it.
Strongly agree.
In fact, they probably underground promoted it. But Donald Trump dare talk about the Constitution, and he's going to be indicted as a sitting president. What do you think's going to happen to Zuckerberg?
Well, first off, had this even happened and a Donald Trump or somebody like that or a Marjorie Taylor Greene were the first ones to discover and bring it up, it would be shouted down as a conspiracy theory and these hashtags were a bunch of bull, then everything would change.
Yeah, I'm surprised the Wall Street Journal is even covering it. I mean, you don't see it in New York Times. You don't see it in the Washington Post.
In my book, if you're not covering it, you're not talking about it or condemning it, you're supporting it. At this point, that's what's happening.
I mean, let's just take a look for a minute. New York Times, let's see what they're covering today. Okay. Let's just take a look at what they're covering. Big story across the top. Trump faces multiple felonies and new indictment.
There we go.
Nations put in extraordinary position ahead of the 2024 race. The Department of Justice took the momentous step, as if this all Trump is expected to surrender to authorities. This
And
was
we all
the whole top of the paper is Trump BS. Okay, then you move down a little bit further, and now we have satellite images of the wildfires. And of course, this is supposed to be global warming. I told you yesterday it's not global warming. And by the way, El Nino, which is going to be these new warm currents, which is going to change the climate in the United States, is beyond human control. We have no control over the ability of these ocean currents to shift. They've been doing it for millions of years. They're going to keep doing it. They don't care that human beings are here or not. And carbon dioxide doesn't have anything to do with the Earth's fundamental temperature changes. It's a very, very minor impact. And compared to water vapor, which is much more, 70% of all greenhouse gases are water vapor. But let's just continue our little perusal of the New York Times. And the New York Times says the dam's destruction, this whole huge dam was blown up. Water flooded all these areas. Well, dam's destruction reshapes Ukraine, but not the arc of the war. The main thrust of the Ukrainian counteroffensive, is not expected along this river. So it's going to be fine. The Ukrainians are going to win. Let's go. It's insane. Energy drinks are surging.
Did they go to the story about how the same grand jury indicted this ham sandwich that we're showing after indicting Trump? All right, that's the whole thing about indictments. Indictments aren't even that big of a story, and these are even worse, especially considering the huge problem. Two things: the whole thing about the idea of questioning, not only of questioning Russia's, questioning Ukraine's involvement in the blowing up the dam, that is, and of course, the fact that indictments mean nothing, and this whole pedophile ring, that stuff's not being covered in the New York Times.
Well, these newspapers are basically worthless anymore. Washington Post, again, same thing. Trump charged in secret documents cases, big picture Trump. Trump expected to appear in federal court next week. So they're already Trump's already guilty as far as these papers are concerned.
They have to ride the wave.
We're going to go through the same BS as we went through all through the 4 years of the Trump presidency. And if this Trump insanity, they hate Trump because Trump dares to talk about God. He dares to talk about American values, American exceptionalism. He creates capitalism. He made the United States energy independent. He wanted to go after excess regulators. I'd move the entire federal bureaucracy to Death Valley. And what are these guys producing? We're going to go through the worst economic crisis, and I've been writing about that as well. Here's the other one. I'm going to be doing much more on this. I've gotten a publicist on it. Now I'm going to start getting into the media on it. We're going to go through a coming global crash. It's coming. There's going to be a massive global crash. It's going to create an historic gold rush. Look at our sponsors. Please take a look at Swiss America. There's Walking Liberty half dollar. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it today, but fill out the form. You need to have some gold and silver. The dollar is rapidly going to become, as paper currency, it's under stress. Inflation is not going to stop because we're printing money. We just raised the debt ceiling. We're going to go now to we're going to hit $35 trillion on the way to $40 trillion in national debt. We will soon be, if not already, equaling the size of the GDP. Covered yesterday, the recession's already begun in Europe. Germany especially is experiencing 2 quarters of economic downturn. Reporting extensively that through the United States, thousands of jobs are being lost. People are working from home. Commercial real estate in the major cities is 30 to 40% vacant. $1.5 trillion worth of commercial real estate in the next 3 years is going to have to be refinanced. And the banks are going to have to absorb billions of dollars of losses, which will, like 2008, tank the banks, and the major banks will take over. You've got a consolidation going on here, power in the hands of a few oligarchs, Bill Gates, who owns the farmlands, and if you go to Climate Depot today, I think Mark Morano is absolutely right. Mark Morano is featuring and covering the fact that there's a war on farming that involves animals, that basically Bill Gates, who's the largest owner of farmland in the United States, wants to attack the food supply. We've had attacks on food processing plants. We've had attacks on energy depots of various kinds. They're not reported. These chemical spills are not looked into or reported. The Department of Justice is too busy worrying about whether Trump has classified documents. Well, as president, right to those classified. He could declassify the whole bunch of them if he wanted to. There's nothing here in this case. And if it were a Democrat, well, Biden can have all the classified documents he wants. He can sell them to Russia. He can sell them to Ukraine. He can sell the country to Russia and Ukraine and to China. Nobody in the Department of Justice is going to do anything about it. We do not have justice in America. We have woke nonsense. Eat bugs. Drive electric cars which catch fire. We're going to change everything electric is good. Well, we don't have an electric grid capable of handling everything electric. It's going to be an energy disaster. So we're self-destructing the U.S. economy. And that's what the Democrats do. That's what the woke agenda is about. That's the counterpart to this book is in print. And, people say, oh, you're selling books. Don't sell books. Well, read the books, please. That's why I'm writing them. Read them, please. If you want to know the truth, and these are all the truth, the climate agenda is nonsense. And anyone who basically takes the time to understand how the climate works realizes that the Earth has been here 4.6 billion years. It's not been a constant place. Continents have drifted. The Earth has expanded in size. We've had 5 extinctions before any human beings were on the face of the Earth, where just about everything alive went away. 80% of the Earth's history, there was nothing living on the surface of the Earth. The mathematics of the climate are nonlinear. It's not predictable. The models are pure nonsense. And then go to the next book, which is coming out. It's in print. I can't wait to get it out here, which is The Truth About Neo-Marxism. Neo-Marxism, cultural Maoism, and anarchy, because what we're going through right now is a Maoist cultural revolution. We are attacking the basic fundamental family. We're attacking private property. We're attacking truth. These are classic symptoms of what is done in communism. I've been reading another book. There are 2 more books you should read. I read this one yesterday, The Socialist Phenomenon. It's written by Igor Shafarevich, who is a brilliant mathematician. And he goes through the history of socialism back to Plato. He does all the various regimes that have had these characteristics of socialism, which he identifies as in his analysis of it, is the components of it. 1, abolition of private property, abolition of the family, abolition of religion. Look how much negation. They have to destroy everything good before they can create their monstrous state where they starve everybody to death. Communality or equality. I mean, look at the picture on the front where you've got everybody with their head shaved looking identical. Equality at the lowest possible level. And the idea of, sharing the women in common, sharing the children, and nobody knows who the father is. All these insane ideas. And what he points out is that he's got characteristics of what the socialist state develops. And I thought these were brilliant too. And again, this is one of the classic texts on why socialism doesn't work. And I'll just find here a couple of his points. He's saying, 1, that Marx claimed to be scientific. There's nothing scientific about Marx at all. Marx was completely his personal opinion, his hatred of God. and his hatred of work, capitalism. He was a filthy guy who disregarded his family, made no money, lived off of charity, and attacked capitalism. He said, socialism is a theory of preparing and implementing revolution. It's a series of rules which must be followed in order to seize power. Same time, it's the technology of power, the philosophy of the absolute state to which all life is subjected, statism. Socialist states are a manifestation of a social structure based on compulsory labor. Socialism, as such, basically is only opposition to capitalism. It has never worked. It has never produced anything but death. And claiming to produce social justice, it becomes a secular religion and it kills people. Jonathan Cahn, Return of the Gods, saying basically that once we eliminate God, the pagan gods return. Baal, the calf, the golden calf that the Jews worshipped when Moses went up to the mountain, Mount Sinai, to get and Istafar, and basically a pansexual god who is transgender in nature. Talks about the Babylonian civilizations and others that have worshipped these gods and how insane they are. He makes the point I've made that finally Rome turned to Christianity under Constantine because the mothers were sick and tired of having their children made into perverts. And I think that's happening in the United States again. I think we ought to put all the woke in their electric vehicles and drop them in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, see if they can swim. Because their theories don't swim, their theories don't work. They just destroy. All right, let's go back to the Truth Central for a final couple of stories. NATO, the head of NATO is saying, former head of NATO is saying that NATO may deploy troops against Russia. Well, isn't that a great idea? Why don't we have World War III against Russia over Ukraine? Most corrupt country in the world. One that was prompted by the Democrats. Remember the impeachment hearings of Trump, all those State Department people who came and said, well, Trump wasn't following our policy. Well, the State Department is not the president. The president makes foreign policy, not the State Department. Putting NATO, expanding NATO into Finland and into the Norwegian countries and also into the Ukraine is a clear poking the bear of Russia. And if we commit troops, we'll have nuclear war. But these insane people will create nuclear war. California's actually got a bill in front of the the Assembly in California to prohibit employees from stopping people who are shoplifting. Why? Oh, we got to protect the employees. They're not trained. It's safe if they just stand by and let them do their grab and smash and grab raids. It's insane that the left wants to release rapists, murderers, drug addicts, criminals from the prisons. These people are insane. I mean, you got to say, is this the way you want to live? Okay, so what's happening in California? Well, of course, the major chains like Nordstrom's, Old Navy, they're pulling out. They're saying, we're not going to have a major flagship store downtown. Police aren't going to protect us. Mobs can come in here and steal everything. And by the way, there's so much filth in the street, and I mean filth, human feces in San Francisco because of the homeless. Democrats breed these homeless. They do not solve social problems. They do not get social justice. They use those themes in order to divide us. It's Proposition 47, basically, has to be undone. The voters put that in place to reduce felony offenses to misdemeanors, including drug possession. So in California, you can't be prosecuted for crime, can't be stopped from, smash and grab. You can't be having these mobs of youth running through the cities like Chicago and destroying these. And the department is a knee. FBI takes a knee to crime. if the states this way, we will self. We're going to have you better have some gold. There are 401k sponsors. Annuities are good. The insurance companies will be giving hikes in the banks. Banks are going to be calling. Insurance companies are going to, I think, remain solvent. Their underwriting is still intact, and they are profitable. They will pay better on annuities. Got an old annuity, talk to the Macmillan Agency. It's on our website. Look at this, My Vital C. People are saying that I'm looking younger. Well, I'm not about to quit. I've decided to come back. I had to take a break after they wanted to put me in prison and about destroyed my life. That repercussions are still going on internally in the family. It's a disaster what this does to you. And they intend to destroy. Chris, any final comments before we wrap up?
As for California and the situation there, I'm looking very closely at what's going on in Oregon, where Idaho may be absorbing the rural counties, the redder counties, and maybe taking an extra Congress member, which will be rather interesting. Um, Whereas that movement that's been floated around the last few years on and off to break California into 3 different states. If this thing with Idaho and Oregon goes
Break
through,
it into 3 different states and let it fall into the Pacific Ocean. We won't miss it.
well, what's going to happen is let's say, more productive farming areas are going to be breaking off of the coastal areas where all the real craziness is happening. A lot of the people in California are not. There's a whole section of California that's technically what we call Republican or red.
Well, in fact,
Yeah.
there's arguments that California has been red for the last 30 years and elections have been stolen. And
Uh,
I think that needs to be investigated. But of course, you can't even raise the issue without being thrown off Twitter. Twitter has not yet validated me, and I don't know if they ever will. They let me have an account again, but they wouldn't
that's smart.
reinstate the old one. So this Elon Musk, don't get fooled by Elon Musk.
Well, he's the guy that wants to put chips in everybody's brains.
Yeah, he's part of the
I
World Economic Forum, and this whole thing is going to be more power, more grabbing of the elite. The Truth Social, the Truth Central. The truth is the only last bastion we have to turn back the satanic evil that is dominating the media in the United States right now, and the politics in Washington. And we've got to move the entire bureaucracy to Death Valley. Quit reading the New York Times and the Washington Post. Turn off Fox News. And the sources on the internet that are good podcasts, Rumble, etc. We've got to have the truth, and and today it takes courage to proclaim the truth. Because as soon as you do, you make yourself into a target. Chris?
It's true, and you're living proof of that. So is Donald Trump. So is anybody else. People who speak up are a target. I remember back in 1992, what it was Ross Perot speaking up a little bit. Arguably, he did hand the presidency over to Bill Clinton, but if it wasn't for George H.W. Bush allowing the Democrats to coerce him into signing the bill with the new tax after promising no new taxes, this wouldn't have happened. So he comes out, speaks out, and by the time 1996 rolled around, when he tried again, he was made to look like a crazy person. The headlines were twisted around a little bit. And they just tried to make him look like he was a total nutcase. Secondly, the treatment of Admiral Stockdale, who was simply his running mate as a favor back in 1992, was reprehensible. So yes, you speak up. This is what happens to you, and it's not even new. It's just worse now.
If this place were the ultimate importance, then you should worry about it. But as I say, and we're going to conclude with this, in the end, God always wins. God's in charge here. And this insanity will be ended eventually. But the cost of ending it, the cost of God winning could be a nuclear war. And if that's the case, so be it. But God will not tolerate this forever. In the end, God always wins. God will win here too. I'm encouraging people, the spirit of 2 Chronicles 7:14, let's get down on our knees and let's ask You must repent and ask God's forgiveness that we allowed God to be taken out of the schools in the 1940s, 1950s. That's when this started. And John Roberts, disgusting. I am so disappointed in John Roberts because I fought, when President George W. Bush wanted to put in Harriet Myers. I fought Harriet Myers because she was involved in the Texas lottery scandal with George H.W. and George W. Bush. And she was a nothing, and he picked John Roberts instead. Well, that was one of the worst Supreme Court justices we've ever had. And still is. I'm amazed that the court overturned Roe v. Wade. And by the way, Jonathan Cahn makes a point that he finished writing this book on the day the decision came down that overturned Roe v. Wade. And he said that's the beginning, perhaps, of us quitting to kill babies with sacrifices to these pagan gods that demand we kill babies. This is Dr. Jerome Corsi. This is Friday. It's June 9th, 2023. Thank you for joining us on the Truth Central. We'll be back on Monday. God bless.